Good morning, everybody. I'm John McDonough. It is 56 degrees outside. It's going to be a beautiful day. We've got a beautiful show coming up for you. I got to do the national anthem. Let me just...
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets glory, we the Ambazonia, special loyalty, praises to our Savior who granted us the freedom, and legends to the hero who brought along we gather. Glory to glory, we rise and never to fall. Here in a nation, flowing with earth and holy, glory. Glory, glory to the Father for making you a nation, a joy forevermore. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meet in our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of His nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meet in our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of His nation.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to City Life Wednesday. It's Tingsboro, so Linda Bound is the co-host. Linda, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
And stuck between us are, to my immediate right, Fru Kembang, and we're going to talk about Africa a little bit. And then to Linda's left is John McDonald. Because Fru's going to leave early.
Yes.
And there's just so much of us he can stand. That I want to talk a little bit about the neck of the woods he's from, there in the curve of Africa as it's coming up and then going out west. So you come in and talk about Cameroon, but right next door is Nigeria. And the Nigerian president was here to visit President Trump in the last week or so. In Nigeria, going from south to north, the south being more Christian, the north being more Muslim. In the middle, the herdsmen attacked a congregation at Mass, killed a bunch of people, including 2 priests. And they're still at large. I'm concerned about that kind of stuff. There's going to be spillover effects for sure, east and west of that, and that means into Cameroon. What do you think?
Well, I mean, that's very sad that the president would be here and at home there is massacre. You know, it's like you say that Nigeria is like the U.S. in Africa. If Nigeria sneezes, the whole of Africa will catch cold.
Oh.
So it's very, very sad that this goes on in Nigeria. There's always this religious fight between the Christians and the Muslims, which the root cause is only known by Nigerians. Yes. I come from neighboring country, Cameroon, which right now we are actually mourning. We bleed every day, and we did think that Nigeria is a big brother and that could protect almost the genocide that's going on everywhere. But our leaders were in Nigeria, almost 14 of them, meeting to discuss the fate of the refugees. We have almost around 60,000 refugees in Nigeria that have been driven out of their home because the president of the Republic of Cameroon declared war on November on his people. So the Nigerian Secret Service, they came and picked up these leaders on January 5th till today, as we speak.
They're still...
No one has heard anything about them. Their family have not been heard from. And the cry is that the worst could have happened. So when you say what's happening in Nigeria between those factions, it is really symptomatic about the many crises that are in Nigeria.
Now, last time I was with you on the show, you had talked about going to our Congresswoman and our senators, our state senators. Have you heard anything positive from them that a change might happen or you'll get some help over there?
Well, there are major developments because in the history of the struggle in Cameroon, the United States Congress on February 29 actually passed a bill. I think
Yes,
they
I
gave
remember
a copy
that.
of that.
Yeah.
And then our Congressman Joe Kennedy III and our Senator Markey and Warren, they have also written letters to the Secretary of State and the U.S. Ambassador to the United States, Nikki Haley, is well informed, and she has written to that effect to the government of Cameroon.
Okay.
But the worst thing is what is going on now is really ethnic cleansing. But the world is still very quiet. As I'm speaking like this, I mean, I don't even know how I get up in the morning and see those images, because if you see all villages, there are some villages, you will see, I have a video there, you will actually see soldiers burning the villages. And they are old people. After the carnage, after the fire, at the end of it, you see burnt people.
Oh.
So it is something that we are questioning, saying that where is the UN?
Yes.
And the United Nations and the Commission on Human Rights, they have visited Cameroon. And when they go to Cameroon, they go and sit with the dictator. He gives them presents. The Commonwealth Secretary went to Cameroon and almost left Cameroon without going to the areas that are affected. And Cameroon is a member of the Commonwealth because of the English-speaking Cameroon, not because of the French-speaking Cameroon. Right. How would she go to Cameroon and did not want to go to the areas that are affected, and then the areas that are connected to the Commonwealth? It beats my imagination, and it really baffles me to see how the West
It's
is
discouraging, though.
this.
I mean, we've been talking about this for months and months, and it doesn't seem to be any progress.
Well, you know, it is exactly what was happening in Rwanda in 1994 during President Clinton. I remember one of the regrets that he made was they waited too long. It was always, people were crying in Africa, and until the rivers start flooding with bodies. And you recall that almost 900,000 to 1 million people were killed in something that would have been averted. And Rwanda was a French-speaking country. These are the refugees in Nigeria that we look. Unfortunately, the audio is not there. But you really realize that these are people Cameroon was never noticed in the world for being a starving nation. We are the one who feed the neighboring countries, even Nigeria, Gabon, Chad, Congo. So for us to be at this stage is quite sad.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not good. And there was another big ethnic cleansing, genocide kind of thing in Nigeria, what, 40, 50 years ago? I'm thinking 50 years ago. The Igbo and the... that was over oil and tribal.
Yeah. Well, for Nigeria, you know, I cannot really speak more.
Yeah.
And I don't claim to be knowledgeable about that. I'm just concerned about Cameroon, because the images that I see, they are my schoolmates. They are people that you see. Those, you look at the carnage. That is actually what is going on. You see.
So what are our officials doing other than writing letters?
Well, but you should understand that.
Where's the outcry?
Well, and another thing is you have France is involved, and France, Cameroon used to be, Linda and Cliff, they know the history very well. Cameroon is two countries, bilingual country. You see, these are villages that have been emptied. Can you imagine? There is no sign of life. Then the question you ask yourself is, that's the Francophone governor there who is going to install a deal. There's no one visible but the army. If you imagine yourself that this is a village, a town There is no sign of life. Where are they? They have been killed. Mass graves have been discovered all around. Look, those are drinking places that are now growing in bush because the army really comes in there and you can see there is no sign of life. And then the question that any human being will ask is, where have these people gone to? And it's not that the UN, the Western world doesn't. They know about it. And because France's interest is in that place, nothing will happen. Unfortunately, if the audio was coming up, you would have really paid attention.
Seen all the business premises
the
closed.
French government.
We have not even seen people to ask them why. But this place is as quiet as a graveyard. Even the installation of the new senior divisional officer for the BLM division, witness nobody came out. I am Derek Jato, signing out from Menji, chief town of the BLM division.
The army, that's the Cameroon. What they do, and then when they do this, they will burn the villages. The people will run into the bushes. There's a helicopter flying on the air. Those will just watch them. You don't see any sign of civilian there. That is the army burning people's properties and cleansing. Then you will ask yourself, where is the world? These images are out there. We are calling, demonstrating every day. And all we can do is, you see, that's the chaff of an old blind lady who was burnt to ashes. We just saw the army burning. And the people are, the rest, they are helpless. They don't fight back. And the government is the one to accuse the English Cameroon of being terrorists. Can you imagine that you can call someone without a gun terrorists? Look at what the army had done. Yeah. So John, you can. So it is quite very, very heart broken that this is happening. So all I can do is that Lowell has been the first city to stand up and condemn this. The city council passed a resolution condemning this. BBC picked on that declaration last year that Mayor Kennedy announced it to the whole world. So this week we are having a peaceful demonstration on Saturday in the morning, starting at on front of Lowell High for Morrissey Boulevard, going down through St. John Street, through Merrimack, and then we'll end at City Hall with speeches. And on Saturday evening at 8 p.m., we will have a fundraiser to generate funds to send to Nigeria for the refugees. We have been sending containers of food, medicine, and we are calling on anybody who could support to be able to come to the march. We will be distributing flyers and contacts how to support us.
Where's the fundraiser?
John, there is, I think there's the poster there. Yeah, about the fundraiser.
Oh, okay. And the fundraiser is in the evening, right?
The fundraiser is in the evening. It's in the evening.
Oh. So are there other cities around the country that are participating in providing relief to Cameroon?
Oh yes, in New York, Houston, California, where there are Cameroonians, they have been sending shipment of goods to help the relief, and also around Europe, in China.
The morning, the march starts at, what did you say, 10 o'clock?
Yeah, the march will start gathering around 9, between 9 and 10 o'clock. Then we officially start the march at 10 a.m. Then we'll end at City Hall, steps of City Hall. Then speeches will be made.
Do you know who all's going to speak? Are you going to speak?
Well, I will definitely speak. Okay, this gentleman here, this an award-winning, renowned Professor Patrick Ganang of Princeton University. He actually went to Cameroon and was there for 3 weeks and went to the areas, to the English areas that the government, that this genocide is going on. And his own observation made him to write an article that was published in the French paper Le Monde and in Jeune Afrique. Since he was very critical of the government arrested him and threw him in jail. So his students here in New York and around the United States and in Europe and all over the world, people demonstrated. And that's the only person that has shaken the regime there. Within 2 weeks, he was released. So he is back here, and he will be coming. He is the keynote speaker, and he is the one who will be leading the march in the morning and in the evening. He will be a keynote speaker at UTech Hall. So he has a story to tell. And sometimes in Africa, we say that to get your name into the Wall of Fame, you must go through an initiation, and that initiation is going through jail. So he was jailed in Cameroon, and I would tell you the jail conditions in Cameroon are not that any human being can talk about. So he has lived through it, and he will be coming here to share his ordeal. Yeah.
Here we are, UTech.
UTech.
So he's going to be at UTech, what, on May 5th? Same day?
This Saturday,
Okay.
May 5th.
So we're going to start out real early in the morning at what time? 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
At Lowell High School.
At Lowell High School.
On Father Morrisette Boulevard, so people don't get confused where to go.
Yes.
So we're going to start out for the rally, what'd you call that?
March for Peace.
March for Peace. Starts at the front of Lowell High School at 9 a.m. Then you're going to go down John Street.
Yes.
So you go Father Morrisette, John Street, Merrimack, up to City Hall.
City Hall, yes.
Okay. So it's going to start, so that's 9 a.m.
Yes.
You're going to gather. And then 8 o'clock is where you go to see
UTech.
Patrick. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a bigger picture of this whole thing so people can look at it one more time. And then we'll go back to you guys. So this is all this Saturday, right?
This Saturday.
Okay.
This Saturday, yes.
How much to get in to see Patrice talk?
No, it's free. That's where we are. It's
Everything's
a fundraiser.
free.
It's free. We're just appealing to the public to come and support us generously and have the refugees and those who have been killed, those who are maimed and they are in the hospital in your minds when you are coming to support.
And if you want more information, we're going to put the phone numbers up here.
If people wanted to send money, who would they make it out to, or who would they send it to? Is there an organization that the funds are going to?
Yeah, the fund would go to Southern Cameroon, New England. Southern Cameroon, New England.
So Southern Cameroon, New England. Do you have a
Yes.
post office box or an address?
I am sorry, I don't have that contact.
Hey,
Linda,
I didn't
next time when I'm coming, I'll be.
Okay.
Trying to raise you some money
But if you
here.
want more information on how to send a donation, is one of these phone numbers yours?
Yeah, the first number.
If you want to call Fru up, Fru likes to get calls
I bet
at
he's
4
gonna
o'clock in the
look that
morning. If you
up.
get up in the middle of the night, call Fru at this number. No, I'm just kidding you. So this is Fru's number, the top one. And you can be in touch with Fru and he'll tell you how, if you want to help out, they'd love you to do that. Please do.
978-746-4291.
That's it? Okay, back to you guys.
Thank you.
So, Fru, looking to the future, it seems to me, from what you've said, the only solution is partition, that the southern part of Cameroon, the Anglophone part of Cameroon, breaks away from the Francophone part of Cameroon and forms its own government. And so it has a name now. What is it? Ambazonian?
Yep, southern Cameroon's Ambazonia.
Ambazonian. And so you've got an interim government right now, except they're all under arrest?
Where they have, there's an acting interim government in place.
Okay.
Is England not helping you at all?
It is very difficult. That's when once, you know, England and France, Germany, and the United States sometimes, these are members of a club. When one's interest is threatened, the others will pay quiet. That's the main. Since France has hold in Cameroon, the Western world will not do anything because
Why
of
would
French
they want to
influence.
allow this, though? Why would France, a civilized nation, want to allow what's going on in Cameroon? I don't understand why
Anyone.
anyone would. Well, I mean, there are plenty of nations out there that are rogue and despicable nations, but France doesn't appear to be one of them. So I don't understand why they wouldn't step in, and that would be my question. And I wonder if that the topic came up when Prime Minister of France came just recently to the United States and met with President Trump.
Well, John, that's a very good question. But what I should tell you, as small as that Cameroon is,
Yeah.
Cameroon can survive without France. France cannot survive without Cameroon. The industries, the raw material,
Yeah, the raw
everything.
material, yeah.
I mean, in the West,
Yeah.
they come from Africa. So that's what people
And
in
that's
the
what they
West should
want.
understand.
They
So
finally have oil.
So the reason why I'm saying
Yeah.
this, I am appealing to the average man.
Yeah.
Because once we get on the streets and
Yeah.
start demonstrating, that is when the politicians, that is when the president, because their power comes from the people.
Yeah.
And if the people see these images that they are killing, their policies are killing people out there, we are all a member of the human family.
So to understand, the government right now that's in control, that's performing all this genocide, has a relationship with France?
It's not that it has a relationship with France. These are hand-picked stooges to serve the interests of all these countries. Mm-hmm. If you remember, at some point we had the president of Zaire, Mobutu, who was the world's richest man in the world, was serving the interests of the West. If you see where mostly Congo, that has all the minerals, it is the poorest nation in the world.
Right.
Why? Right. But you go there, you see the Belgians, the French, the Germans, and everyone there. Why is there war? So, as citizens, we should be asking in that light. Because if you are saying that these countries are wretched, these countries are poor, and then you see all these multinationals there extracting everything but not giving anything, then you are blaming these countries instead of looking at the root cause of this misery. And any meaningful patriot in this area who rises up to ameliorate the conditions of its people, the West will bring him down.
Unbelievable.
But the southern Cameroon, John, from what he's told us in the past, that's where the resources are, and that's why the French part of Cameroon is trying to overtake the English-speaking.
Interesting.
And Cliff brought a very good point about separation. Because there are two Cameroon, the French Cameroon and the English Cameroon. These were two independent states that now we are talking as if they are like Sudan or any other. They were two independent states. The English side had its own government, prime ministers, and had gone through a democratic system. From 1953 to 1972, a peaceful change of four successfully governments elected by the people. Right. They had a House of Assembly, they have the Senate, and they conducted free and fair elections, that there was a change of power between the incumbent and the new coming without any problem. But in Cameroon, the president, since independence in 1960, was handpicked by the French. That's handpicked by the French, not elected. That's the French system. From since 1960 till now, it is still that same one party. That's right. So compare the two systems.
Right.
Would you say that you would definitely say that the two systems cannot coexist because one system exists under dictatorship and domination, and then the other system espouses the rule of law and also governance by the people choosing their own leaders.
So why is the conflict taking place? Why is the ethnic cleansing taking place? Is it over to clear the lands for resources? Is it a religious fight? What is the root cause?
Well, this is way back. Linda and Cliff, we've been in this because the two countries came together like Canada.
Yeah.
The difference between Cameroon and Canada is that Canada, it is the English side that is bigger. And because of the English system of governance, you give power to the people. There's elective system.
Sure.
But in Cameroon, the reverse is true. The English part of Cameroon is 20%. The French part is 80%. That 20% has almost 70% of the national resources.
I see.
You see, and
so this is about a fight over resources.
Right. And it has been marginalized for 58 years. We don't partake in the government, knowing that it is a government of two equals. So they wanted actually to kill our own identity, as completely assimilate us. So for all these 58 years, the English section has endured a lot of humiliation. They have called us enemy within the house. They have called us names. They have called us Nigerians. They have never called us as Cameroonians, even though we are more patriotic. They are only interested in the natural resources that come from these areas.
Yep.
I think this sort of underlines the fact that, notwithstanding what we believe, that all Western Europe is the same kind of democracy, but there is in fact a difference between the British sense of democracy, our understanding of democracy, and the way the continent works. The continent, to a large degree, has grown out of the French Revolution, and that was an ugly time. And that's a sense of the government helps the people along, whereas the English view deep down inside is that there are the rights of Englishmen and the government is there to serve us. And these are, we paper it over. It doesn't seem to be a big difference to us. We all vote, we all have elections, but there are some deeper philosophical issues here. And southern Cameroon has got that Anglo-Saxon view of the world, and those northerners have that Napoleonic Francophone view of the world.
We dominate, we make you feel like you are part of us. We actually intimidate you and humiliate you mentally so that you are always subservient. Your identity is nothing. That's what the French system is.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I'd like to go back to a question John had earlier, because the French President Emmanuel Macron was here a couple weeks ago, and why this issue of human rights, which it is, didn't come up. And I think, which is why your demonstration is important.
Yes, yes.
And
it's power to the people on the streets. When once the people come out, that's what we're saying. Fellow Lowellians, they have always stood behind Cameroon and Bamenda, because Bamenda is the biggest city in southern Cameroon, and we have, I would say, a bond, a transatlantic relationship with Bamenda. In 2002, then Mayorita Mercier signed a sister city relationship with the city of Bamenda. Even the king has visited City Hall on 2 occasions. The interim government, which is now kidnapped, and in Nigeria was at the city hall.
Wow.
So you see, I mean,
Yeah.
you see, we are really connected.
Yep.
But when
Yes.
you have a government, they just kidnap your leaders. It's just like, it's awful. So you can't have a government without your leaders. I mean,
Yeah, they have
why
they
they
have
do
an
it.
acting.
but I just don't understand the UN not being more proactive.
Puzzling.
Yeah, well, that brings up the question, do you think that Southern Cameroon, how do we pronounce the new Southern Cameroon?
Ambazonia.
Ambazonia. When it gains its independence, do you think it's going to become another failed state like Southern Sudan, which is a failed state, sadly? And other new independent states, or is it going to be able to stand on its own?
Well, that's a very good question that we really want the world to understand, because the fear is that what has happened in Sudan could, and in all these other states, could happen in Cameroon. But I would say that categorically, Southern Cameroon, on its own history, has demonstrated to the world that since 1953, we were the first country to have multi-party system.
Is it
in
on the
Africa.
map here?
Yes. Yes.
What's the name of the country, the new country?
It's that hunch, Johns. That hunch. No, go up.
Right up here?
No, go up towards
Left.
Go to the left.
by the ocean, by the Atlantic Ocean. By the Atlantic.
Okay,
come
okay,
down.
okay. There's right, left, up, and down.
Come
Left.
down to the Atlantic
Left.
Ocean.
I want to go to,
There,
No, no,
yeah,
no,
you
you
were
whoop,
right
Too
there.
far.
Too
Now
far.
we're in Nigeria,
Okay, come to the left, to the right,
to the right now.
where you see Douala.
right here.
No,
But
right.
yes, yes.
That hunch going up straight is right.
Yeah,
You
that
see-
projection up into
Bring it-
Nigeria.
Bring it a little bit down.
Does
You
that
see
river,
Bamenda.
does that river sort of divide it?
Okay, you see Bamenda up there. That's the capital city. Right, that is the city, our twin city between Lowell and Bamenda. So to come back to your question, Cliff, since 1953, Southern Cameroon was the first country in Africa to have a multi-party system. And from 1953 to 1972, we united with the French Cameroon in 1961. During that period, they had 3 successive governments. The government of Dr. Endele, the government of Dr. Foncha, and then the government of Premier Joa. That within a space of 6 years, they have 3 successive governments. Within that period, the French Cameroon got its independence in 1960. The president was appointed. They eliminated all the political parties since the French were there. And from 1960 to 2018, where we united, it's only been one party and one person that has been ruling. And then another reason that will support that the Southern Cameroon can govern themselves is the fact that the literacy level in the Southern Cameroon is the highest in Africa.
Oh, okay.
Is the highest in Africa. That is why when this struggle started, we did not resort to guns. We asked for dialogue. We asked for meeting with the government. But the lawyers asked for dialogue with the government, presented their grievances. What did the government do? The government arrested them. He convened a meeting with them and started arresting the leaders. They fled to Nigeria. The teachers asked for meeting with the government. The government met with them, and then after started arresting the leaders. They fled to Nigeria. And when they were in Nigeria, the government followed in Nigeria and kidnapped them. So in this other country like Southern Sudan, they were part of Sudan. We were an independent nation with an international demarcated boundary called the British Southern Cameroon. So for us to compare a Southern Cameroon with Sudan, Sudan's level of education compared to that of Southern Cameroon is almost around 20% compared to 80%. Anything that happened in Sudan, since most of them were not educated, they resort to firing guns to resolve their own issues. But in Southern Cameroon, we have demonstrated by our patience, by our leadership skills, by our education, to coexist with the French, who have dominated for 58 years, sucking our raw materials, destroying our education, destroying our infrastructure, and killing our people. We've not resulted in firing guns. Then would anyone say with this history that if we become independent, we will not know how to govern ourselves? So that's the distinction between what's going on in the southern Cameroon and the French Cameroon.
So to help people get a quick sense of it, John, could you bring up the map again?
Yep.
And zoom out a little bit so that we can see more of Africa.
All right.
Even more. Okay, now, well, if you go up to the Mediterranean, you see Egypt. We all know where Egypt is. Right. And below that is Sudan. So if you could sort of close in on Sudan a little bit. This is the nation we're comparing it to. That's Sudan, with Khartoum as the capital. And then down below is southern Sudan, if you scroll up.
Yeah.
And that's an area that is struggling to succeed. I don't even know the capital of southern Sudan.
Maybe it's Juba?
Could be Juba.
Looks like
Yes,
Juba.
Juba, right there.
Yeah. So, so that's the that little landlocked area is which suffers from desertification up in the northwest. It's mostly herding and agricultural.
A lot of green there, though.
And it's not succeeding. It's not succeeding very well. So, and then down below it is Uganda and Ethiopia and Kenya. We all know Kenya, President Obama's father was from Kenya. And then Somalia, which is another failed state, is over to the right. And then we've mentioned the genocide in Rwanda. That's just over to the left there.
Yeah, Rwanda is by Lake Victoria.
Yeah.
Go up a little bit right there. You see, that's another area that the world stood aside, and I quite remember the world came and said after that genocide, President Clinton and the whole world said they have learned a lesson that they will never allow this to happen. And I think, as I said, history will always repeat itself. It is repeating itself now.
Now, Fru mentioned the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We can see that big area right there.
That's where all the minerals, the cell phone, I mean, there are some minerals that can, in the world, that can only come from that area. That's the richest part in the world. And you ask yourself, why is it a failed state? And why are all these multinationals there? And then it's a failed state.
Because the people on top are stealing the money.
And the people on top are stealing the money because they are supported by the Western, because the Western multinational will deal well with thieves. They are the ones who keep them there.
You can call them thieves, but they're running the government and they're robbing the people blind. He's only going to be here another 7 minutes. He's got to go to real work.
So what we're seeing is that the government is trying to silence the activists in southern Cameroon, but I've heard that they've actually traveled outside of Cameroon and are trying to silence activists elsewhere. Do you have any examples of that? Are you concerned about that yourself?
Well, Cliff, even right here in Lowell, with what is happening, people are saying what the government atrocity is happening, and then Lowell is very current because the people of Lowell read the news and follow the news. Government informants, they have been calling the city hall with negative comments and calling us, me in particular, a terrorist. They write, I have written a letter that is sent to the city hall. City Hall see compare the messages, these robocalls that they are calling, and then once you match that up with what the Secretary of State, the U.S. Congress, our own Congress woman Nikki Saunders, and then Congressman John Kennedy III with our senators, what they are writing, then you sort of ask, who are these people and calling and labeling us here terrorists? Lowell is my home. I've been here for more than 30 years. I've actually, all my children were born here. I'm very involved in Lowell because I don't stand on the sideline, because I consider Lowell has done so much for me that anything that I can do to put Lowell in the positive light, I will do. But these are people who represent the Francophone government. They call the City Hall and threaten that we are out advocating violence in Cameroon. There was even another incident that one fellow wrote that my group almost killed him in New York. I've never met this fellow. We were about to hold a meeting in Melrose. They made an anonymous call and to the hall that were to hold our meeting. And then the people were frightened. We had to file a report to the Melrose police station. So they are these people out there in this country bringing that dictatorship tactics in Cameroon and being protected by our constitution that are actually going after individuals here. They have made so many calls and so many threats, verbal threats and calls, that every southern Cameroonian is very is
no matter
scared.
where you are.
No matter where you are. And I think that it's only about time that the system will catch up and they will be caught.
Are there many immigrants from Francophone Cameroon in the United States?
Oh yes, there are many. From the 60s to the late 90s and 2000, most of the Cameroonians coming to the United States and in England, they were from the English side. But since the French government realized that the English system of education builds character, builds moral, and builds people of integrity, and that the French system is only limited within Cameroon, worldwide, to me, French is almost a dead language. If it is in ranking, you have English, you have Chinese, you have Spanish, and before French. So because they are in power in Cameroon, most of the scholarship that the Western countries, mostly United States, England, and the English countries were giving, they were now giving them only to Francophone to the Francophone citizen, limiting the opportunities of the English system, because their intention is to completely emasculate and assimilate us. A member of parliament, a senator, stood up and said that the English Cameroon is like 2 cubes of sugar that will soon dissolve in the whole Cameroon. So that is the mentality of the Francophone Cameroon. And what you are seeing today of the villages being burnt, of students being killed, the youth being massacred, is trying to dissolve that 2% so that history will never happen again. And we are calling on to the whole world not to stand on the sidelines and let what happened in Rwanda happen in Cameroon.
Let's do a recap of the events for Saturday. We gather at 9 o'clock in front of the high school. Then there's a march at 10 o'clock from the high school down to John Street, then down to Merrimack, and then up to City Hall where there'll be some speechifying.
Yes.
And you're going to talk. Anybody
Yes.
else going to talk that you know of? Patrice?
I believe Patrice will talk.
Yeah.
The mayor will talk. I believe Vesna Noon will also talk, sharing his own experience from Cambodia.
Yes.
Will talk, and there will be other few speakers.
And then at 8 o'clock at night, at UTEC, which is down by the Inland Conference Center. At 8 o'clock, Professor Ngangan,
yes.
From Princeton University, he's going to talk.
Yes, he will talk. Radimom will talk. Will be there. The mayor too will be there, and many other. The superintendent of public schools too will be there. So yeah. So John, there is a flyer there for the arrested leaders in Nigeria. If you can just bring that up on the screen, just for them. Please.
If you want to make a quick contribution.
Well, let me just reframe this thing and tell me which
Yes.
link you want here. Which one you want?
The Free Our Leaders.
Free leader.
Top one.
Right here.
Top one.
There.
No,
Okay,
no.
good. I'll get that up.
So if you want to make a contribution to relieving the suffering, a monetary contribution, do that at 8 o'clock in the evening meeting, right?
Yes, yes. I know we are really calling on the public to generously come and support. When you see those images, those people are at the mercy of help coming up from the international community. You see, those are the leaders who are jailed in Cameroon. That's the president who was here, President Sisiko Ayuk Tabe. That you have Barrister Nalowa, she's a lawyer. You see Professor Awasom. You see Dr. Felice Che. You see can you scroll it up, John? Yeah. You see Dr. Ojong. Can you scroll it so that we see the...
Or go out.
The right side.
The right side come, yeah, right. Okay. Then you see Dr. Felice Che a little bit up. All of them are doctors, PhD holders. These are not literate people that you would think that they will solve guns by the barrel of the gun. If you went to Sudan, I mean, this level of knowledge, all of them are teaching in Nigeria. Professor Ifongala, Barrister Yambe, either they are lawyers or they are professors in their own field. So who would really doubt the leadership of these people, the minds that they do have to conduct a peaceful and matured nation?
And these people have all been kidnapped.
All of them have been kidnapped. They have not been heard of. You see Dr. Henry Kima, you see Dr. Cornelius Kwanga. I mean, that is the southern Cameroon that we are talking about. And in terms of governance, you compare this to those other failed states when they had problems. They're like Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Southern Sudan. All they knew was you see kids on the street with barrels with guns shooting each other. So I would take this opportunity again, Linda, to thank you, John and Cliff. You guys are doing such a wonderful job and standing up for people thousands of miles across the Atlantic that you have never met, but they are with you in spirit. And so too goes to the people of Lowell, who have never met any of these people, but they are the first. We are the first city to vote to condemn what is going out there. It's very, very typical of Lowell that we open our doors. We are, as Cliff said last time, that we are a city of immigrants. We welcome everyone from all, and that is saying so. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in again, and I hope to see you again
John.
soon.
Linda, thank you.
We're going to go to a break.
It's a traditional folklore music from Northwest Province of Cameroon. It is a hit song. Let's move it.
Willy Mix DJ, toujours avec toi. C'est toi le meilleur.
Meloti mono matola mbekengwa Cameroon. Mugembole chenumja. nebele so mazule ngwankangu mele chendumja ngolo nje bangben bitinda kwable ngwa Cameroon abono no gonje kongonje mbagole bona wa megamdanye wule bombema zelombe fona dolo lenzampo yeah 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 nebemji banga oh oh Cameroon,